All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are digging deep into decades of declassified intelligence to finally uncover the reality behind the global UFO phenomenon. We've got some absolutely incredible source material to break down for you, everything from classified military reports to astronaut testimonies, and even some very recently released government files. It's a fascinating look at what exactly is flying around in our skies. Now, we've all heard the wild, fantastical stories of extraterrestrials visiting our planet. But let's kick things off with a crucial question, one that's really going to guide our entire investigation today. Are aliens real, or is the government hiding something else entirely? Because, as we'll see, the answer might be way more complex and geopolitical than just little green men. Before we really get into it, let's just anchor our investigation by remembering one very critical detail. The word unidentified simply means unknown. Right? It doesn't automatically mean a craft traveled here from another galaxy. Keeping this distinction in mind is absolutely crucial as we start analyzing this data. Okay, picture this sequence of events. In 2023, at an undisclosed U.S. location, federal agents gave sworn statements about witnessing glowing orange motherships that were releasing erratic, smaller red orbs. Then a sort of sequel to this happens in 2025. A senior intelligence official in a military helicopter tries to approach a similar orb, only for it to instantly vanish, outrunning the chopper by 20 miles in the literal blink of an eye. This isn't a movie script. These are sworn statements from highly trained government agents. So, how do we make sense of these mind-bending sightings? Well, we have to look at a massive data dump that happened on May 8th, 2026. On that date, the U.S. Department of War officially declassified exactly 162 secret UFO files. They put the whole shebang out in the open on a public webpage, completely pulling back the curtain on decades of Pentagon reports, FBI documents, and NASA transcripts. Inside these newly released files are reports of objects that completely defy basic physics. We're talking about a craft spotted in Greece in 2023 executing impossible 90-degree turns at 80 miles per hour. No known drone can do that without losing inertia. Over in Iraq and Syria, high-speed anomalies evaded advanced military surveillance. And in Japan, there was this bizarre football-shaped craft documented with 3 distinct projections. But here's the thing. The mystery isn't just confined to our atmosphere. During the 1965 Gemini 7 mission, astronaut Frank Borman radioed Houston with the phrase, "bogey at 10 o'clock high." Now, bogey is a specific military combat term used for an unidentified enemy aircraft. Using a combat term to describe an unknown object in the complete vacuum of space, that is incredibly unusual. Analysts later confirmed he wasn't just looking at booster debris either. It was a completely distinct, unidentified object. And those space anomalies, they only deepened during the Apollo lunar missions. Buzz Aldrin on Apollo 11 reported unexplained flashing lights while he was just trying to sleep, and he saw a massive light source hovering near the moon. Fast forward to Apollo 17 in 1972, and a photograph clearly captures 3 physical dots hovering in a triangular formation right over the lunar surface. Even the government's preliminary analysis couldn't identify what these physical objects were. To really grasp this modern confusion, we gotta rewind a bit to the chaotic birth of the flying saucer craze. It all started in June 1947 when pilot Kenneth Arnold reported objects moving like saucers skipping across water. Weeks later, a farmer in Roswell, New Mexico found bizarre metallic debris. The military's response was, frankly, a total disaster. On July 8th, they proudly announced to the world they had captured a flying saucer. Literally the very next day, they retracted it entirely, claiming it was just a weather balloon. This massive contradiction ignited a global hysteria that really hasn't stopped since. So right in the middle of this ensuing global hysteria, the U.S. government launched Project Blue Book in 1952. Over 17 years, they analyzed more than 12,000 cases. Now, the vast majority were pretty easily explained as weather balloons, airplanes, or even just bright planets. But a persistent, tiny sliver of exactly 701 cases remained completely unexplained. Now, here is a question we absolutely need to ask. It's a striking geographic anomaly. If these are random alien explorers visiting Earth from distant galaxies, why do they practically only appear near Cold War hotspots, the Middle East, and heavy U.S. military installations? Why did they hover near Soviet borders in the 50s and 60s, and today they just so happen to hover over military zones in Iraq, Syria, and the Indo-Pacific? The big reveal actually came decades later, when the U.S. Air Force eventually declassified something called Project Mogul. It proved the famous Roswell incident wasn't an alien crash at all. It was highly sensitive Cold War espionage. That metallic debris was actually from a top-secret American spy balloon designed to listen for Soviet nuclear tests. And this right here exposes a truly fascinating dynamic. The US government kinda just allowed the public to believe in alien spacecrafts. Why? Because it provided the absolute perfect cover to test their advanced surveillance tools in secret. Those alien bodies people swore they saw in the desert, the military leader admitted they were actually just crash test dummies used for aviation testing. The alien narrative was literally just a convenient shield for Cold War secrets. Bring this back to today. When we look at recent sightings over places like Syria, Iraq, or Japan, the reality is heavily grounded in geopolitics. These mysterious objects are usually Chinese high-altitude spy balloons, just like the one famously shot down over the US in 2023, or they're Iranian and Houthi surveillance drones probing defenses. In a lot of cases, it's just the US testing its own next-generation classified aircraft. They appear near military bases because, well, that's where the most sophisticated radar systems are deployed to actually catch them. Oh, and remember those spooky moon anomalies we talked about? It turns out, even the legendary astronauts who experienced them had highly practical theories. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin eventually concluded that the strange cabin flashes were likely just natural sunlight leaking through window covers, and the brilliant light sources outside were almost certainly solar reflections bouncing off smooth, earthly lakes. It all really brings us back to that famous scientific adage: extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Look, while it's incredibly fun and exciting to imagine that we are being visited by advanced civilizations, a handful of blurry infrared videos and unverified radar blips simply do not equate to actual proof of alien life. And this grounded perspective was basically set in stone by the February 2024 AARO report. The All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office investigated decades of UFO claims and government records dating all the way back to 1945. Their conclusion? They found an absolute lack of evidence for extraterrestrial technology. They also confirmed there is zero proof that the government is hiding or reverse engineering alien spacecraft. Most sightings were just confirmed to be ordinary objects, drones, or satellites. Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative theory presented in the source material. If there are no aliens, why dump all these uncontextualized UFO files into the public sphere right now? Is the strategic release of these documents genuinely about government transparency? Or, as some analysts suggest, is it a calculated political distraction? Dumping mysterious files without context fuels conspiracy theories, which works perfectly to distract the public and the media from more pressing, real-world controversies and political missteps. It is a fascinating question to ponder. So what do you think is really flying in our skies? And more importantly, why are we being told about it right now? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep looking up.